Welcome to Jackson Reviews, the channel where I go for the best and worst horror movies so you don't have to. I'm Sam Jackson, and today we're going to go through Hatchet III, released in 2013. Hatchet III is easily the most violent and the funniest in the series, with a good amount of backstory but not too much, and a lot more characters with a much more ensemble cast feel. So it's the best, is what I'm saying. Danielle Harris and Kane Hodder return with Parry, Shen as well, along with some weird fucking people from other horror films. Like, such a strange selection, but I love it. You have Zach Gilligan from fucking Gremlins and Gremlins 2. You've got Caroline Williams from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. Derek Myers, who played Jason Voorhees in the 2009 Friday the 13th movie, so two Jasons in this one. Diane Goldner from both the Pulse and Feast movies. And not forgetting, of course, the fucking redneck god Haig from, like, every fucking Rob Zombie movie, if we're being honest here. So basically what I'm saying is fucking prepare yourself for a bloodbath with some of the darkest humour that made me chuckle out loud in any film ever. Because this one's awesome. The film continues straight from the last one, with Maribeth blowing Victor's head clean off with her shotgun. A few seconds later we get a Jason X sit-up from Kane Hodder and Maribeth walks away. She finds the giant fucking chainsaw on the ground and Victor appears to kill Maribeth. Very much done with all his shit though, she punches into his fake head hole and throws him onto the chainsaw, slicing him in two. She grabs what's left of his head and taking it as a trophy. Then we get another Adam Green cameo after some intro credits and the introduction to our main characters, including Sheriff Fowler, aka the guy from Gremlins, Deputy Winslow, and later on Deputy Albert. Maribeth walks to the station looking all kinds of fucked up and is very quickly arrested for obvious reasons. The cops investigate the swamp as the main characters realise the blood in Maribeth is not even hers, and she's interviewed by the sheriff multiple times, who doesn't believe her story. The cops at the swamp inform the sheriff about the huge amount of bodies, causing him to make his way there. We also get a very funny scene which made my boyfriend laugh for way too long.
Fuck off!
This is Deputy Winslow, I need all of them.
Caroline Williams appears, portraying a reporter Amanda Fowler, who did a story about Victor Crowley years ago. She has a pretty heated conversation with the sheriff, who's also her ex-husband, and is able to later persuade Deputy Winslow to talk to Maribeth. We get tons of victims and this film's new character for Parry, Shen, and they bring Victor's mangled body away, along with his belt sander and hatchet, because they're nice that way. Back to Amanda and Maribeth. Maribeth tells the plot of the first two films quickly, with Amanda explaining that Crowley must come back to life until he's reunited with his father. Obviously Victor wakes up in one piece because fuck it, and he slaughters everyone quickly with some pretty gnarly deaths. This ends up leading to a truce between Amanda, Maribeth and the deputy, and they all head out to do a magical adventure. The sheriff and his group appear, explaining that all 12 of the first responders units are missing. Remake Jason Voorhees also appears as a SWAT sergeant with some extra members. We get some comedic scenes such as a dig at the NRA, and the film cutting off Crowley's backstory before we see it. The three main heroes are on the way to get Thomas Crowley's ashes, for some reason, and the group in the swamp find the remains of the first response team, which includes my favourite comedic moment.
These are somebody's balls. Balls are not supposed to be hanging from trees, yet I'm finding myself looking at fucking balls, sir. That guy knows what's up.
Parry, Shen appears, explaining his new name, it's Andrew, and that Victor Crowley caused this as a SWAT team member takes complete control of the group. We get a Predator homage and the group hears Victor's screams, accidentally leading him to the Crowley house where the bloodbath occurs. Prepare yourself, there are multiple deaths under a very short amount of time. First, we get a random officer kill, then Deputy Albert. Then we get a second shootout, and 5 officers who decide to hit Crowley with their guns overshooting him. And Kane Hodder proves himself to be the best Jason with another awesome Predator reference. Officer Schneider gets a rocket launcher, accidentally kills one of his colleagues instead of Crowley, and is subsequently killed off in one of the most drawn out kills in the series, which is so disturbingly cool, it puts shivers up my spine, so it's not going to be in the top 5 list. Oh, and the 3 survivors run for their lives whilst the Crowley house burns down. 10 people dead in like a second. That's how little of a fuck this film gives about your ensemble cast. Back in Maribeth's group, we bump into Haig, who portrays a redneck racist, aka his best characters. We get some very funny dialogue between him and the black officer representing the change in time, and ending with him taking Thomas Crowley's ashes. In the swamp again, the 3 survivors bump into another survivor who is only really there for a cameo from Ben, who dies with some great dialogue. And then an alligator just totally kill steals from Crowley to this random guy. Amanda explains that because Maribeth's father was the one who killed Crowley, Maribeth must return Thomas Crowley's ashes to Victor. She doesn't take this news very well, but the other survivors don't really have the time for you to not give a fuck, Mary Beth, because they're trapped inside an ambulance boat by Crowley. The sheriff ends up calling the National Guard whilst Crowley goes to fetch his conveniently placed belt sander and tears a hole in the wall of the ambulance. They have to pretend that they're getting shot up by rednecks because otherwise the army won't appear, and I think that's kind of a cool little thing, with Mary Beth's group finally getting back into the swamp with their plan prepared. Amanda starts calling out for Victor, causing the sheriff to look for her, and he's then decapitated by Crowley. The SWAT member then tries to grab his gun, only to also be grabbed and torn apart, leaving Andrew as the last survivor of their group. Amanda keeps calling out and Victor arrives, and there's a really strangely touching moment between both Victor and Mary Beth, representing both the families that they've lost, and the fact that they've caused the loss of each other's families. She ends up giving him the ashes, and both the characters show a hell of a lot of emotional vulnerability, with Mary Beth even crying, and Victor saying his first words properly in the entire series. Sadly though, due to the events of her previous films, Victor is still pissed off to fuck with Mary Beth and goes for her, leading to the deputy shooting him through the chest. But as usual, Victor gets up and rips him open, and then also kills Amanda by tearing her head clean off. Once again leaving Mary Beth as the final girl, but not the final character. There's some dark comedy and disturbing gore which leads to Mary Beth smashing the urn over Victor's head. It dissolves him in a gross but awesome effect, especially for some of this low budget, and eventually blows him to pieces with one of Schneiderman's many shotguns. The film ends with the National Guard arriving to save Andrew and Mary Beth, but she ends up falling over due to a large injury, getting impaled. She ends up gasping for air as the film ends, leaving her fate unknown until Hatchet IV. With more character development, much better kills, some of the most awesome fight sequences in the entire series, with some of the most dark humour I've seen put to film to date. I love this fucking film. Just the camera work itself, all that kind of production stuff is a lot higher, and you could tell this had the most budget in the entire series. I'm not sure particularly if it had anything to do with changing directors, but if it did, it's not a negative in my opinion, even though I do kind of miss Adam Green's kind of weird gothic style in a way. All the acting throughout the film is awesome, and it doesn't at all look like they've just gone to the local store to get randomers. They've got a proper cast, even like all the secondary characters and all just the victims. They're all pretty decent throughout, and I have no real issue with that. The sound design, awesome. The writing of this film is the best. Well done, Adam Green, because he wrote it, just didn't direct it. And just, this film is awesome, and it is currently the only film out of a series on Amazon Prime. So go watch it. Go watch it now if you have Amazon Prime. And if I enjoyed the film, yes I did. Get Amazon Prime and watch the third one now. As with this series, I'll go through my 5 favourite kills. And number 5 is going to be the 5 police officers, because all the deaths are quite funny, and they would have been awesome if we were done separately, but the fact they're done in such quick succession is cool. The other 5 members would also get a shout out if 2 of them were also on this list. At number 5 is the guy who Schneiderman shoots, I think it's called Rick or something. It's just, his death looked like it was going to be so violent, gory and horrible, and then he just flies through a fucking air in Schneiderman's rocket, and I just can't. I just love it. And number 3 has got to be Derek Myers' character. Just Jason versus Jason and how quickly he kills him. It's kind of funny, and I think it's definitely got to reference the fact that it is another actor who played Jason that he's killing. And it was only 4 years prior that he played Jason as well, which is kind of cool. And number 2, it's the first paramedic. Pretty much the first proper kill in this film. It's just, you know Victor's obviously going to come back, and you see him on the table a couple of times, and then he moves, and you're like, right, what's going to happen here? And we get a fucking Scream 4 reference. But we see a Scream 4 reference as to what would happen if those films were as gory as they used to be. Because his fucking head explodes. I love it. And number 1 has got to be Victor Crowley himself. Just the fact that this film hasn't got that high of a budget. I think it was around about $4 million, which isn't that big for this kind of stuff. Those special effects are incredible when he melts. I love it. And I love the fact that Mary Beth's like, come on, come back to life. And he's like, dead. She's like, come on, you gonna fucking do it? And he's like, dead. So she just fucking blows him to pieces. Like, it's a perfect way, kind of. His death is like the best way to cap off a trilogy. Like, kill off your main villain for fucking good. Even though it's not technically for good, it was definitely the end of the original trilogy, because as you're going to see next week, 4 is a very different beast. Now, thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy this, please be sure to like, share and subscribe. Prepare yourself for Hatchet IV next week. Like I said, it's a very different kind of film, but I quite enjoy it for that fact. And I will see you then. Goodbye.